guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Late Night Movie Review, and welcome to our folk horror week for this winter period. So for this week we'll look at three folk horror films, some a little unusual. The first one is a BFI release. I'll pick up the right box, and it's called The Juniper Tree. Now this is an Icelandic folk horror film, obviously based in sort of medieval Iceland, and it follows two sisters, and their mother has been stoned and burnt as a witch, and they living in the sort of local area, and they find like a dead body in the river of another woman who's been sort of stoned and died there. And so they decide to move on to somewhere more peaceful, because the elder of the two sisters is in fact a witch, and she builds a spell to find herself a husband who will stay with them and stay with her. And we sort of catch up with them on their journey, and they've met this man and a young lad, and they've lost his mother, his husband, so he is now with this woman. She's put a spell on him to be her sort of husband. So their relationship, the husband and wife, sort of goes back and forth, because the spell sometimes seems to wear weak, and he sort of wonders who she is. Because I think that the mother of the young lad and the husband of this man, the wife of this man, was also a witch, and I think she's put a spell around this area. Because the younger sister, who's played by Bjork, she sees a figure of her quite frequently through a window or up in the mountains, and she's sort of bonded well with the young lad, and they're sort of telling stories, and she's seeing these visions of his mother, and she is trying to come to terms with if she's an actual witch herself. But the other sisters keeps putting all these sort of spells on the husband and his son to try and make them, stay with her. But it's not working very well, because of, I believe, of his previous wife being a witch, has sort of already put a spell on this area where they are. And the story sort of follows around this sort of relationship, and the relationship of the child and the other sister. And it's a wonderful, wonderful story. It is sort of lightly based on the Brother Grimm story, and it's a very sort of, yes, it's a folk horror, but it's more of a folk tale, this story. And it shows sort of medieval Iceland and how they sort of lived, and it was very much in sort of stone, mud sort of houses built within sort of hills and hidden away, and this kind of thing, and it's very, very striking visually. It's filmed in black and white, and the story is like I said, it's like based on the Brother Grimm sort of story. And I'm not going to tell you any more of the plot, because I want you to see what happens in this film, as the discovery of the younger sister, played by Bjork. She sort of discovers her sort of destiny, while the other one, it comes clear that she's a witch. The young lad's already picked up on it, and when she tries to the young lad doesn't like her, and he's sort of already sussed out that she's a witch. Really cool film. Now, the pluses of this edition, it's had a really lovely restoration. It's restored from the original 35mm film, because this is a very sort of lost film, if you like. It just sort of came out and went nowhere. I think it's probably popular in Iceland, but everywhere else it sort of it got artistic merit because it's a very arty sort of folk horror film, and it's a very slow um, film, but it's a story of these people back in this time surviving the sort of folklores that were going on, very similar to The Witch. Obviously, The Witch is a lot more disturbing than this, but this the same sort of premise, and that's why I fell in love with the film. I just think, yeah, this is so cool because I like films like this because the young boy it starts getting sick and ill, and I think it's because of the clashing of the two sort of witches and stuff like this and spells that's put on. The he sees the older sister putting spells on his father's clothes and all this sort of thing, and it's a very it's a very intriguing, a very stark and very sort of bleak sort of folk horror, and it unravels into like this I'm not going to tell you because I want you to find out. Um, I'm going to score the film an amazing watch and give it an. That's the wrong box. That's tomorrow's film. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It was really, really cool, and it was great to see a folk horror from a different country. You know, when we think of folk horrors, we tend to think of the British Isles and some of Europe, and we tend to forget like the Nordic countries. Um, so we tend to think of things like Britain and Ireland, and that's where tomorrow's folk horror story comes from. It's from Ireland. This was an extremely rare film. We're going to look at that tomorrow. Um, and this was just like it was just great to see that although these are such different people with different cultures, it's all very similar, and how the sort of uh, condemnation of witchcraft was even affecting countries like this, not just in Europe or in UK. These faraway countries like Iceland also had their own sort of folklores around witchcraft, and it was really, really cool to venture into this film. I loved it. Really cool. The Juniper Tree. 8 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below. Yes, it's not a 9 or 10 out of 10 film because it's more of an artistic horror film. It's based in it's all sort of like, when I say artistic, I mean like in its photography, in its soundscape, in its storytelling. It's very sort of artistic. It almost plays out like a play, if you like. But it just represents so well, and you see some wonderful sort of like visuals of black and white Iceland and how stark that country is. How some of it is made of black rock because it's a volcanic island, and the other part of it is just full of snow. It's a very sort of like contrasting sort of environment, which also brings an extra sort of like character to the film. If I was to compare it to any film, I would say it's along the sort of lines of Ennie's Men. If you enjoyed that, you will probably love this film. It's got that same sort of vibe going on. And of course, that was also released by BFI. BFI tend to release quite a lot of folk horrors because all three folk horrors this week are BFI releases. So it's really, really cool. Any of you guys seen it? Let me know down below what you think of it. Until my next folk horror review, which is going to be The Outcast, which is an Irish folk horror film, check out some horror channels for me. Check out Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Man v Film, Irish Design, Pizzawell, I Am Ice Lord, The Maniac, Cat Watches Horror Movies, and Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House. And a massive shout out to my lad. I hope you're all having a wonderful winter and enjoying this sort of heading towards the festive time, and I hope you're all doing well. Till next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I see you all soon.